event together. Okay, you're now streaming on YouTube.
Yes, it's still connecting, so it's about to go live. I'm still checking if I'm trying to see if my entire settings here is correct so that we get the best experience today. Okay, amazing, amazing. Okay, right now we are live on YouTube, and let me share the link
Okay.
to the YouTube stream. So let me share the link to the YouTube stream so that you can check that out as well.
I
I'm
really want
trying
us to
to
also
make
make
some magic.
uh,
So I'm dropping the distance to you. I'm sending you the YouTube link. That's the YouTube link right there. So
okay,
you should be able to
perfect,
see the YouTube link right there.
perfect.
Okay, so let me see if I will need to zoom in the camera to my own face so that my face is more in your face than the entire area. So I think it's okay like this. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to.
Okay, what you would do is make sure you mute all participants again.
Yes, I will
Please do
mute
that.
everyone.
Do that before we start
Okay, so
recording.
welcome everyone. That's right.
Okay, what you would do is make sure
So the only person that is unmuted is Chris. So I've
oh,
just
perfect.
turned off my. So right now
Perfect.
there's no interruption. The only person that I've unmuted here is just Chris. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us in this particular conversation. Let me have Chris do all the preambles he will want to do.
Okay, guys, are we recording now?
I'm about to start the recording.
Start.
Recording. Should I record to cloud or should I record to this computer?
Record to cloud. I think so. I
Okay.
can be able to download
So
to you.
recording to cloud started.
All right.
Um, say something.
Hello.
Okay, just hold on. I am setting up something here as well so that that also captures. Say something now.
Hello.
Okay, so I think I need to change.
To computer.
I'm actually setting up my own sound here. Oh, yeah, you talk.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Okay, great. So right
So
about
I
now,
think it's
we can
recording now.
continue. So I'm
All right.
doing audio recording as well. That's why I said you should talk. So there's audio recording on my own system, while there's
Okay.
also video going on.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I know Nenny will like another video class again. We just finished one on Monday, but yes, yes, yes. These conversations are necessary, and I have here with me Dayo Samuel, and Dayo is. I'm going to use my own personal experience to describe who Dayo Samuel is. And I keep telling people that if you're looking for someone who has the kind of thing you could see in the likes of John C. Maxwell, Dayo Samuel for me is the John C. Maxwell for Africa. He has that wisdom. Okay, you could see the kind of books in his library. That's his book. You're seeing there. Dayo is an author. Dayo is a thinker. Is a system strategist. Okay, I remember 2018. What you guys are seeing happen today about DABA. One of the first persons, should I use the word prophesied into play, was Dayo Samuel. And this is who Dayo is. I'm going to give you a practical example. I don't want to start using CEO of this, CEO of that. Dayo looks at you, looks at your company, looks at your gift, looks at your personality, and they say, I think you should be doing this. Sincerely, when I came in 2018, relocating my business from Calabar down to Lagos, and we're like, man, it's time for us to be the biggest this will beacon and blockchain. And then looked at me, one of those trainers, and said, I see this part of you that you're not utilizing. And since this hub you have, I believe a time will come, you should be training people and be teaching them businesses with the gifts and the abilities you have. I didn't really think, I said, okay, maybe when the time comes for that, when the time comes for that. 2020, our number one profitable venture so far is DABA. And one of the ones carrying the most activity is DABA. Yes, other ones are coming in, other ones are doing their work. But Dayo is that coach that consult, is also my personal consultant. Is that person who, when he looks at you, he can diagnose the problem in the company, the problem with your system, and help provide solution. Throughout this whole thing, I saw a post on Instagram Dio made. He casually made this post. I'm not sure he was even so serious about it. He just typed some things. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is mind blowing. I have been looking for somebody to say something like this. And I had to, you know, the different, I'm going to hear him talk tonight. The different systems, different people are like, man, this is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been thinking. If the church could do this, if your company could do this, if your tribe can do this, I believe we will outlast what we're building today. And that's why today we have Dayo Samuel with us, and he's going to be teaching us, he's going to be taking us on systems thinking and dominion. Dayo, over to you. Please, instead of somebody controlling that thing, just put it back to yourself so that
it's all right. I will handle that. I will handle that. Thank you very much, Chris. Annie, thank you. It's been totally amazing being around you, and I must say that while there's something about symbiotic relationships, when you are in a relationship with someone and where value is flowing in two dimensions, in the two ways of that relationship, that is what has happened between me and Chris. I remember when we were going to do the Fear Resolve process, which was a group therapy program that I run, a physical one, and at that time there was no money to fund physical event. There was no money to actually rent where we were going to use. Then I walked up to Chris and, since you have not been using this place, let us be the person to launch this place for training. And we did launch the place for training, and it blew up. And since then, it's been an amazing journey. So while Chris has always, I've gained a lot of things from being around Chris, and I want to say thank you very much for having me today. Thank you very, very much. Today we are going to be having this conversation that a lot of people don't like to have. And I must say here that part of this conversation is going to challenge many of the things you are used to. It's going to challenge perhaps maybe your beliefs. It's going to challenge some of the ways you've been operating, some of the ways you've been being and behaving. And thank you very much again, Chris, for that brief introduction. For those who are just getting to know me, I am Dayo Samuel, and I am a multi-potentialite. By being a multi-potentialite, it means that you can find me playing different roles in different people's lives in different times. That is what it means. So over the years, I have been plenty things to plenty people in different contexts. And today, you are going to see one side of me that you probably may not have seen before. So let's jump into the conversation of today, which is systems and dominion and systems thinking. I'm going to share my screen here so that you can see what I'm seeing. And as we begin this conversation here, looking at systems intelligence for beginners, I'm going to try as much as possible to simplify this entire conversation for everyone. I want to start with a question here. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Type in the chat box where you can see yourself in the next 10 years. Where can you see yourself in the next 10 years? Of course, for some people, if you were asked these questions 10 years ago, that where do you see yourself? That is 10 years ago, that is 2020. Today, where you will be seeing yourself will most likely be different from what you thought you were going to have. So, where do you see yourself over the next couple of years, particularly in the next 10 years, where do you see yourself? I want you to type in the chat box where you see yourself in the next 10 years. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? For me, I'm going to share some of where I see myself in the next 10 years with you. And while you're doing that, I'm taking a screenshot here. I'm snapping a picture. I'm trying to do like Chris. I'm entering the spirit of Chris. So, Aban says a major investor in several businesses in the next 10 years. Amazing. Precious says create a multi DABA college like Chris. Amazing. Peter says owning one of the largest e-learning platform using animation for learning. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, the question I want to ask you is, okay, Bamijo says I want to look into digital marketing and be a marketer. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, what I want you to, the next question I want you to answer is, do you have a system that will take you to that place over the next 10 years? Now, to be honest, many of us will assume we have something in place that will take us there. Most importantly, a lot of us have dreams, and that is all that we have. So someone says, I don't have. Precious says, I have, sir, but I'm doubting. Well, today you will learn how systems work, particularly if you want to be at the top level in your field. You will see what it takes to make that happen. It's not as difficult as many people think, but it comes down to the things that you put in place that are going to help you in the long journey. So today, let's continue the conversation here. I've asked you the question of where you see yourself in the next 10 years. In a few minutes' time, I'm going to ask you the same question. But when I ask you that question, then you probably have a genuine answer to give. So I have found in my own experience of studying people who have things they want to do with their lives, I found that there are two kinds of people, two categories of people. There are those who are preachers and advocates. And they like to make a lot of move with those ideas. And then there are those people who are called practitioners. I call them practitioners and appliers. These people they are not so obvious. They are not so popular as the preachers and advocates. And they are the people who make things happen behind the scenes. Now, I needed to explain that to you because in 2040, what is Africa going to look like in 2040? A few days ago, Chris was writing something about Dubai Mall and Onisha Market. And if we actually think about it, you find that Onisha Market may probably have been in existence before there was ever anything called Dubai Mall. But because there's no vision of the future, nobody is thinking of the systems that is going to deliver the future. So, case in point, many years ago, Nigeria's biggest buzzword was Vision 2020. Vision 2020. Question is, today, where is Vision 2020? At least we are in 2020 right now. So where's that vision? Has that vision been lost? Has that vision expired? That's the question I want. What happened between when that Vision 2020 first started as a conversation and now is the fact that they did not build a system that's going to deliver the Vision 2020 that we have been screaming of. In fact, somebody got into politics because he wanted to deliver a vision of Nigeria that he saw, but because he was entering into a system that required a different level of playing, the person did not even have up to 2,000 or 5,000 votes all around Nigeria. And the person is a very popular person because of system. If you have a vision of the future, you need a system to deliver that. In fact, I'm going to share with you how God brought the idea of Jesus Christ into play by simply creating a system, a 3-step system. You are going to see how that works today. So, as we continue this conversation, I want you to get your notes. I want you to get your pads. You are going to be taking a lot of notes. You are going to be writing down a lot of things. But more importantly, you are going to be answering a lot of questions because I'm going to ask you a lot of questions that will challenge who you think you are, questions that will challenge you what you think you are doing, and questions that will challenge where you think you are going and what you think you are building. So again, in the conversation, Precious says, I see my company as one of the biggest company producing smart furniture and interior decoration. Amazing. Do you have a system around that? Okay. I want to be a great podcaster, a bestseller, and influencer. See, being a great podcaster is simple. Just do podcasts consistently for 2 years. You'll be a great podcaster. It's as simple as that. At least I did that from 2014 up until 2017, podcasting back to back. And with the system I built around that, it helped me spread my message across the world. So let's get into this conversation. Let's take it a little further. Now, I want you to look at what is written on the screen here. Many years ago, there was a guy called Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ made a statement. Particularly, he said that enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate that leads to, he says, for wide is the gate that leads to destruction. Wide and is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Now, what Jesus is talking about here, while a lot of people think it's just talking about don't do what every other person is doing, which is number one. Number two is Jesus was talking about two different systems that run. Now, if you are going to find something, you need to search for it. If you are going to search for something, it means you are engaging your mind. But if you are going to enter through something, it means somebody else may probably have created that pathway. And so all you are just doing is to follow the lead of that person and enter into that thing. So a lot of times you find that people don't necessarily engage their minds. They sometimes see what other people are doing and then they copy what other people are doing because, of course, many enter through it, isn't it? But the narrow gate that leads to life, and life could mean anything to you. Life does not mean eternal life anyway, and life does not even mean that life does not mean salvation. Life simply means life, and life could mean anything to you. And those who find that life, only a few find that life because only a few will engage their minds. Now, as we go on in this conversation, you will understand what I mean by that. So here I want to ask you a question. When you hear the word dominion, what comes to your mind? When you hear dominion, what comes to your mind? And I want you to type that in the chat box as well. When you hear the word dominion, what comes to your mind? What does dominion mean to you? So what does dominion mean to you? I'm going to pause here and let you, okay, somebody says authority, taking charge and control over a thing, amazing. Influence, amazing. Building, being in charge, to take control, to be dominant, amazing, amazing, amazing. Power, territory, influence, overcoming, leading. Oh, interesting. It looks like some people are beginning to peep into my note. You are peeping into my slide. Amazing. I'm liking the fact that you understand that dominion could mean power, it could mean overcoming, it could mean influence, it could mean being the dominant, it could mean to take control, it could mean to be in charge. But let me quickly share with you what I found when I decided to study this word dominion. Here's what I found. So dominion as a word means that you have dominion, you rule, and you dominate. So when God said that let us create man according to our likeness and let them rule over the fish, or let them have dominion over the fish, God was saying that let them lead, let them dominate. Now, interestingly, I found this particular definition, and this actually caught my attention a lot. In fact, it says that around the mid 15th century, dominion simply means lordship, sovereign, or supreme authority. And then the next paragraph says, in law, power of control, right of uncontrolled possession, use, and disposal. Now, from 1510s, it meant territory or people subject to a specific government or control. Now, what does that mean? It means that dominion is not so much of, I want to take over, I want to be in charge, than it of having, so if a form of, you need to exert a form of control over a particular territory. This is going to be becoming more interesting. Now, I found as well that the country called Canada today, the original name is actually called the Dominion of Canada, which means the territory of Canada. Now, if all of this means that dominion is territory or people subject to a specific government or control, that suggests that dominion equals leadership. Dominion means leadership. And in fact, if you are a Bible reader like I am, you will find that in Revelations, particularly in Revelations 1, verse 5 and 6, 5, verse 10, it says almost the same thing, that by reason of redemption, that Christ has gotten us back dominion. So could that mean that dominion was initially lost, but it was gotten back? Perhaps, maybe that's what it means. Now, I need you to understand a little bit about this dominion. Now, when we talk about dominion, you need to also understand our world is not confused mass of sights, sounds, and events. Our world is an orderly collection of independent systems, most of which you can adjust so they deliver exactly the life or the results you want. And as we get into this conversation, you'll understand that. Now, I think this was created by Lance now many years ago. And it says that there are 7 territories that control the entire human existence. Of course, the society that we are in. There is the territory of, there is business, there's government, there's family, there's religion, there's. Now, the question is, which of these 7 mountains are you currently playing in? And which of them are you going to take dominion in? These are the 7 mountains that shape the society, that shape the community, whatever community it is you find yourself around the world. You probably find yourself in a society that is controlled by business, government, family, religion, media, education, entertainment. And in fact, I need to mention here that when we talk about media, media controls the history of a people. It is not government that actually determines the history of a people. It is media. It is what media creates that education now leverages to teach people. So sometimes education may not be as powerful as we may seem to think. But the interesting thing is education is an important part of the society. Now, entertainment, for example, entertainment determines the mind and head space for each generation. Every generation will rise and fall to the degree of the entertainment they consume. Now, when we look at business, for example, the wealth of a country, the wealth of a society, the wealth of the people is controlled by the business. And in fact, if you check, for example, most countries, you'll find that the wealth of the people don't come from the big companies so much. The wealth of the people come majorly from the small business systems that exist within that society. Somebody is saying that, can I overcome all of these systems? Yes and no. You need to position yourself in one system first, then you now use that system to enter into other systems. I'm going to explain that anyway as we go on. So I want you to look at any of these systems. And in fact, in answering the question of the person that just asked just now, that can I take over? What you want to do is you want to look at the value chain of each of those mountains, each of those systems. So if we take business, for example, which is going to be a classic example I'm going to use in considering how to build a system. Now, for some reasons, I may not be able to go into a lot of the tiny details that you will need, but I'm going to give you an overview of what you can start doing today in order to build systems that will help you deliver the dreams, the desires that you have. Okay, so having talked about that, so let's say you want to build a business system. what you want to look at is you want to look at the value chain in an entire mountain. So, for example, if it is business or if it is religion or if it is education, you want to look at education as a system, and then you want to build three things out. First is the entrepreneur, which I call key person of influence, because if you actually consider it, in every system, in every mountain, there is always a key person of influence. There is always somebody who influences that system in an entire way that a lot of people, some who is going to play the role of the entrepreneur. Second role is going to be the role of a manager, who I also call the diplomat. The diplomat simply manages people and manages processes. Now, the third person is going to be technician. And when we talk about technician, I'm referring to field workers, the people who are going to be the persons who actually do the work. And this is very, very important. It is as you understand this that you will get to understand that every system has three parts. Of course, I'm going to explain that as well. Hope you're getting me right now. If you're getting me right now, please let me know in the comments. Let me know that you can hear me. Let me know that you can still see me. Let me know that you are still with me. So you will see that okay, great. So amazing. Thank you. I'm seeing all of your comments. Amazing. And for those who are watching us live on YouTube as well, thank you very much for joining me as well. Thank you. It's going great. Okay, so they say I should write down. Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Delia Delegate. Thank you, Musa. Thank you, Finanyon. I've never seen that kind of name before. It's going to be very interesting to know the meaning of your name. Yetonion Finayon. Wow, that's a very interesting name. I'm saying that for the first time. So if you can, please tell me the meaning of your name. I'm going to be very interested in that. Okay, so moving forward, here's what I want you to understand right now. A bad system will beat a good person every time. Nigeria is the way it is today simply because there is a lot of good persons, but there is a bad systems. And no matter how good you are, you can't thrive in a bad system. So in system intelligence, what we usually say is the statement that they make that if you can't beat them, you join them. Sometimes it is true when it comes to systems intelligence. And by that, if you want to, so for example, using China as an example, in order for China to become the nation that it is today, what did China do? Very simple. China simply infiltrated America. They infiltrated the United States. About 20 years ago, 30 years ago, China started sending all their young people to America to go and study what America knows, and then to send them to come back. And today, you can see that China is practically controlling almost everything that is going on. So you need to understand that if we are talking about system, a bad system will beat a good person every time. So if you want to win any system, look for, if you want to continue to be a good person, sometimes you might need to enter into a bad system. And if you find yourself in a bad system and you want to continue to be a good person, what you need to do is to create a parallel system that's going to match the intensity of that bad system. Now, I'm going to explain how that works, okay? So again, now I'm going to ask the question that I asked earlier on. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And do you have a system that's going to take you there? If you don't have a system that's going to take you there, my friend, my brother, my sister, you that you are listening to me right now, watching me right now, you are on a long thing. So let's talk about the leadership system, the 2D leadership system. Now, having seen that dominion simply means leadership. Dominion simply means leadership of a system, leadership of a territory. Let me share with you the 2D leadership that has become very instrumental in the way that I approach leadership. So first, there is the depth of leadership, and then second, there's the breadth or the width of leadership. And breadth simply means you go deep, while breadth simply means that you are expanding, you are covering more territory. You are covering more territory gradually. Now, you can't be the best leader that you want to be in one single instance. In fact, I usually say that the best of your leadership is as powerful as to the degree that you have mastered, the degree of depth or the degree of breadth that you have mastered. You need to be aware of that. Now, you may be wondering, so what does this depth mean? What does this breadth mean? Let me share that with you right now. So, here is the breadth of leadership. Every leadership begins somewhere. And you know where it begins from? It starts with self. If you want to lead other people, if you want to take over a territory, your leadership begins with yourself. That is the first part. Now, once you lead yourself very well, you will then be able to lead one person. This one person could be your wife, it could be your boyfriend, it could be your girlfriend, it could be a staff, it could be someone, it could be a team member. Then you start leading one person. As you do this very well and as you cover a lot of ground with that person, then you can begin to lead a group. And as you begin to lead a group, maybe you started a business and then you added one person to work with you, and then gradually you begin to add more persons to work with you. That's how your business begins to grow, your business begins to grow, and your business begins to grow. And then you now have a lot of group. Now, leadership also has a, and this fourth part is what I call groups without you. And at this level, you are leading at a scale that even when you are not present with people, you are able to influence them, you are able to lead them, even when you are not particularly present, physically present with them. Are you getting that? So you need to be aware that even when you are saying that I'm a leader, I'm a leader, I'm a leader, you need to understand that there are stages and there are phases of every single leadership journey. Nobody suddenly one day just starts up and say, I am the leader of everybody. They started somewhere. The people who lead, and when I talk about groups without you, two examples that may come to your mind right now could be someone like Jesus Christ, somebody like Nelson Mandela, somebody like Buddha. These people they are not here anymore, but their leadership is still felt even till today. Now, one way to get to that is to actually, and we'll talk about that as we go on. Now, when we talk about the depth of leadership, depth of leadership starts from one, being able to lead people first momentarily. And when I say momentarily, what that means is on the spur of the moment, you are able to influence someone. That is momentary leadership. Now, there's also contextual leadership where you're able to lead people rather than just the moment, rather than the spur of the moment, you're able to lead them in a particular context. So, for example, taking one of those mountains, for example, you'll find that there are people who are best in the area of family. There are people who are best in the area of government. There are people who are very proficient in the area of business. But when you take them into religion, for example, they become very dumb because that they have not been able to spread into multiple contexts. Do you get that? So there's leadership in the momentary, and then there's a leadership which is contextual. Now, leadership which is contextual is also just second level. The third level is when you can become multi-context. That is, you're able to lead in multiple contexts. And when I say multiple contexts, it means that you can be a leader of perhaps family, be a leader of business, be a leader of religion, be a leader of education. Do you understand what's going on here? Now, for the person who asked the question earlier on that, can I lead all of these systems? Can this or does this answer your question right now? Can you see that before you can get to that stage, you need to first start from somewhere? Now, the fourth contest is, or the fourth depth of leadership is leadership for the greater good. And when you say leadership for the greater good, I'm not talking about United Nations, and I'm not talking about I'm not talking about SDG goals. What I'm talking about here is where you can lead people for the greater good. That is, rather than just leading people in the moment, in the spur of the moment, rather than leading people in a particular context or even multiple contexts, you're able to harness people's potentials towards a greater good. Now, becoming a president of a nation is usually towards that end. But of course, if you are in a bad system like Nigeria, you can't do that because you only have to be a politician within a particular context. And in Nigeria's context is the context of tribe, the context of religion, the context of geopolitical zone. So what political leaders in Nigeria have lacked so far is the depth of leadership helps everyone to align to a greater good. So, for example, if everybody says so that our greater good is the prosperity of Nigeria, so everybody seems to want to have the same dream, the same desire, the same result. So everybody is gunning for a Nigeria that is a system that is working. That's a greater good. You understand? But in order to get to moving everybody to a greater good, you need to understand that there is process. You can stand up today and say you want to become the president of Nigeria. Well, if you have enough backing from all the powerful people, or if you have built a system over the years, you can stand up and say, I want to be a president of the nation and land there. But if you don't have a system in place, the truth is what you need to do is to grow gradually, And if you check the nations of the world, if you check even all the systems around the world, you find that that is what usually happens. For example, I'm going to touch a small bone here. So LGBTIQ, for example, is a system, but a lot of times people don't understand that it's a system. The art system is looking for more people to absorb, and that's the thing with every system. The more people you absorb into your system, the better it works for you and the better you are able to quickly reach your goal. Because if you are going to build a system that's going to truly work, you need multiple parts working together. I'm going to show you that from how God designed the human being and how God designed the entire human experience. Okay, so moving forward from there, let's continue here. And so let's say that, okay, very fine. It's even interesting that the human experience is what my slide shows next. Now, systems control the entire human experience. For example, in order for God to create human being, God had to put a lot of systems into the human body. So there's a system called integumentary system. There's a skeletal system. There's the lymphatic system, which has to do with the fluid and blood connection. There's respiratory system, which is the part that coronavirus is trying to affect today. But you can see that coronavirus is only affecting the respiratory system. There are other parts of the system that coronavirus may not be able to affect. But of course, if over time, you can resist coronavirus. For example, there's also what is called immune system. Do you get that? There's digestive system, there's urinary system, there's a reproductive system, there's cardiovascular system, there's endocrine system, there's muscular system, there's skeletal system, there's nervous system. Now, if anyone has ever told you that, and I know that a lot of times you would have heard that your mind is the most important part of your transformation. The truth is, in order to achieve transformation, you need all of the systems of your body working together. The mind is only a tiny fraction of human transformation. Of course, as you have seen here, the mind happens to be the nervous system, isn't it? But the human being has a lot of systems. In fact, if I am correct, scientifically, there are about 12 or 13 systems running in your entire body right now. In fact, as you are listening to me right now, there are a lot of systems that are working, but because God has designed it such that the system just needs to run on its own, and it keeps on running. And so the system keeps running on its own anyway. For example, let me break a myth here. You probably may have heard that they said that that you can only use 10% of your brain. First thing is that is not true. Scientifically, from my studies in neuroscience and my studies in human behavior, I have found that it is not true that you use 10% of your brain. Cognitively, consciously, you, yes, use 10% of your brain, but the other 90% is working even when you are not conscious of it, even when you are not aware that they are working. For example, you are listening to me right now. You are using the frontal cortex of your brain. That is what you are using to pay attention right now. But you are still breathing. The breathing is still controlled by some parts of your brain. You are learning. Your learning is taking place with some parts of your brain. In fact, as I'm talking, you are associating what I'm saying with some things you have learned in the past. Your amygdala is working. Your hypothalamus is working. All those tiny structures, they are all working. But right now, you are using your cognitive power to listen to me, isn't it? So when they say that you are using 10% of your brain, it is a myth. It is not correct. At every point in time, you are using 100% of your brain. You may not just be aware of the parts that you are using per time unless you begin to pay attention. Okay? Now, that said, at this point, let me know if you are getting me so far. Unlimited thoughts going on subliminally. That is very correct. Michael says, I strongly agree. Yes, I'm getting it's amazing, amazing, amazing. So let me know if you are getting me. If this is getting very interesting, please let me know. So in fact, I'm going to ask right now, what's one thing you have learned so far in this session? What's one thing you have learned so far in this session? Under this section. So it's very interesting getting you. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So I'm also checking YouTube as well. Okay, Dila Deleke say value is on delivery. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. Impactful systems are a very vital part of our existence and success. Of course. In fact, I'm going to still talk about the systems that determine success. Malari says getting you. Anyan says self-development. Chris, thank you. It says be intentional about creating systems that will help drive your vision. Balance says impacting systems are a very vital part of our existence. Not every fact is a fact. Amazing, Michael. Self-development and relationship building. Amazing. I've learned we need a good working system to work very well. Of course, your leadership is as powerful to the degree you have mastered. You only use 10% of your brain is a myth. Amazing. The mind is only a tiny fraction of transformation. I need to work on myself first before transmitting that to others. I'm loving the comments. I love the depth and width part. Amazing. The leadership depth and breadth. Amazing. So you can see there's a systems to leadership. But somebody just wakes up one day and says, I am now the leader. And the person has not gone through the process, has not built that system gradually in order to take over. So you find that a lot of times things happen. And one thing that I've been doing, I started this January 2017. That's when I started studying systems. In fact, in order for me to understand systems, I first enrolled in a course, and I paid arm and a leg in order to get into that class. And that class had to do with systems engineering. In fact, the name of the class was called Family Systems Engineering. And my manual is there, and it helped me break down the building of a family into the different departments, the different systems that we work together. So you see, all of life is a bunch of systems. Now, you will even understand this. As we go on, you will understand this. So let me jump right in. Winnie says, no wonder Chris is your friend. Chris, sense will not kill you. That's very funny. Thank you for that, Jerry. Thank you. Okay, so Delia Adeleke says, in public speaking, I understand more on depth and breadth of knowledge, but here you break my table. Leadership, breadth, and depth. Amazing. Thank you very much for that. Now, let's continue this conversation here. And I want you to understand here, a system is a combination of multiple parts running together. There is no system that works as a single entity. Every system is a combination of multiple parts running together. Michael says the computer software division, application software and system software, amazing. Interestingly, I'm going to talk about computer development as we go on. So you see, a system is a combination of multiple parts running together. While you may not be aware of the many things that are running, they are there anyway, and they are running. So let's look at this is the basic components of a system. And in fact, just as Michael said now, in computer science, basic computer science, they taught us that the basic components of a system is input, process, output. If you put in garbage, you get garbage out, isn't it? They said garbage in, garbage out. But then I've begun to question that thought that a lot of times garbage can go in, garbage may not go out. If you create a process, for example, garbage in, garbage out, right? Let me prove that is not always correct. So Bill Gates recently developed a system where they will pass the sheet that you sheet. They will pass sheet through a system, and then the sheet will come out as clean, drinkable water. In fact, when I was watching the video, the man who was doing it actually took the water and drank it. And I was like, hey! Now, what does that tell me? It simply tells me that garbage in may not always mean garbage out if you create a good process. But the idea here is you need to understand that every system has three parts. There is input, there's process, and there is output. Now, talking about system as we talked about earlier on, the entrepreneur usually is the input of a business. The manager usually is the output of the business, and the person who handles the process usually is the technician. In fact, using a platform like DABA, for example, or maybe a company like Audacity to Lead, for example, the people who design, the people who work on the back end of maybe a platform, the people who work on the back end of an app, they are the technician. They are the people who handle the process. The manager is the person who handles the outcome, the output that people get. But Chris, for example, Dayo Samuel, for example, they are the entrepreneurs. They are the key persons of influence that go out there, bringing all the people so that they can do business, so that they can pass through the system that we have developed, so that we can create the same outcome for them. So if you look at it, every business is a system. But if you don't understand that this system needs to be in place in order for your business to grow, you will basically be struggling day in, day out. Now, I want you to understand that again, here, what I've just explained here is that the basic components of a system are input, process, output. Now, let me get into a little of science and help you understand how God has designed that through science. Again, I'm going to make this statement that systems rule the entire human experience. Every single thing you know about the human experience today are ruled by systems. Of course, I've talked about the 12 to 13, 14, 15 different systems that exist in the entire human body, isn't it? Great. But let's look at them in a tiny, let's kind of look at them under the microscope right now. So, if you pick cell, which is the smallest unit of life, you see that the input of a cell is the receptor membrane. That is where things go into the cell. The processor of the cell is the nucleus, and the output is the cytoplasm. Now, if you pick an atom, for example, an atom, the input comes in through the proton, the process takes place in the neutron, and the output takes place in the electron. That is, there's positive and there's negative. Now, neutron usually is referred to as a neutral. Now, if you pick the whole human brain, you find that the whole human brain is also divided into three. In fact, the first person that first of all said that the human brain can be divided into three did it maybe around 1940 something. And at that time, he called he labeled them as the limbic system, the frontal cortex, and the mammalian system. In fact, in naming them, he called them systems: limbic system, mammalian system, and what did he call this third one? Prefrontal cortex. Now, I want to break that down. Forebrain, there's midbrain, and there's hindbrain. Now, forebrain is what you use for thinking. That is where all of your learning coming from. That is where all of the information that go into you, it starts from your forebrain. In fact, when you look at a brain, for example, the white part of that brain is usually called forebrain, and that's the biggest part. It is usually now the midbrain, where you find things like amygdala, hippocampus, and a couple of other systems like that. For example, in the midbrain, you find the pineal gland. Those places process things. Do you get it now? And then when it goes to a hindbrain, where it sends things out, you find the medulla oblongata. You find where the outward part of the nervous system begins. So you find that even God already designed the human system to function. Almost every single organ can be broken output. You find that the eyes, which you are using to look at this screen, which you are using to listen to me right now, are you using your eyes to listen? That's very funny. The eyes that you are using to watch me right now, you find that the eyes also has 3 layers. The input is the photoreceptor, which some people call rods, some people call cones. And then the bipolar cells is where the process, that is where the light that enters into your eyes passes through a simple process that now sends it out as ganglion cells. The ganglion cells communicate to your brain in order for you to interpret, maybe this is something you should run away from, or this is something you should stay. And then when we look at the spinal cord as well, you find that there's sensory tract, there's associative, and there's the motor tract. The motor tract is what you use to carry out physical behaviors, physical exercises. Now, if you look at man, you find that there's also the 3-layer or the 3 system of man, which is spirit, soul, and body. Spirit is the input, soul is where the entire process takes place, and the output shows up as body. For example, I always say this, and science has proven to us that cancer, for example, usually is a system that kicks perhaps some time back, and it takes a long time in order for it to show up as an ailment in the body. I'm not going to get to that because that's not the conversation here. Now, when we look at yourself, the government of self, and this concept of government of self is something I developed in 2008. Or maybe 2017, I can't remember right now. In fact, Government of Self is the title of one of my forthcoming books. It's a book I've written. I'm just not ready yet to release it because some of the things in the book is going to go against what a lot of people have always thought and done. So the Government of Self, if you think about the Government of Self, there's the executive part, which is the input. There's the legislative, which is the process. And there's the output, which is the judiciary. The output is just like the brain. It brings this, it accepts belief, it accepts things, it accepts statements, accepts things. In fact, the executive starts developing within the first 7 years of a child's life. That time is called the imprint process. And so the self begins to form at that point. Now, the legislative part of a human being, of the self, is that part of you that kind of creates a book of law. This book of law is where it kind of predicts anything that is seen to you. Anything that is right, anything that is wrong is contained in this book of law created by the legislative. And so anytime anything comes in through your input, through the executive, the legislative runs through it, through your book of law, and goes and like, is this thing exist? Can I, what's my response to this? And then it shows up as judiciary by hitting the gavel and say, this is how you should behave. This is what you should do next. So for example, giving you a simple understanding right now, you probably were told when you were growing up, maybe some people when they were growing up were told that money does not grow on trees. So if you find money on the floor, somebody lost it so that you can find it. So you need to gain in order to, somebody must lose in order for you to gain. If that was what was dropped into your executive, your legislative will pick that up, and then it uses this to process your behavior towards money, such that anytime anybody wants to give you money, he will tell you, "Bang!" You can't accept it because somebody has to gain in order. So you have to gain. Somebody has to lose in order for you to gain, and so you find that all of life, all of this system keeps playing out. Now, success and achievement is also a system. No matter what you want to achieve, no matter the success you want to record, it all comes down to the system. For example, input is the goal, process is the habit you put in place, and the output is the outcome that you said. I remember many years ago, those days I used to follow John Maxwell, and he says that success is the realization of a predetermined goal. Now, while a lot of people want success, which is the outcome, which is the output, a lot of times people are not making the necessary input or maybe even setting up the correct process. So if you want success, if you want to achieve anything, first it starts with an input, which is the goal. The goal sets the direction. Then the process is the habits, which helps you to make progress. And then the outcome becomes the realization of the set goal. So you can see that everything about success can be broken down as a system like this. 3 parts. There's a goal, there's the habit, and there's the outcome. If you create the goal and you are waiting for the outcome, but you don't develop habits for making progress, which is the process, which is the most important part of any system, you won't get the outcome. And this is what I like to say. Many times we admire the outcome someone has without knowing the input that or the process that follows after, or the process that followed after the. So if you see somebody and you are copying or you're admiring somebody, what I want you to understand right now is that person has input, there's process, and there's output. What you are seeing, what you're admiring is the output. You may not know the input that the person made. You may not even know the process that the person set up in place in order for them to achieve that output, in order for them to achieve that outcome. Now, this is the reason why a lot of times many people, they set goals and the next thing they do is they start praying. And I know this is going to touch on some nerves right here. So some people set up goals. For example, maybe like my board here. Let me show you my board here. So maybe like my board here. So let's say maybe like my board here, you set up a goal that you want to achieve 100 million. Well, you may not know, maybe it's 100 million or 100 million views, you don't know. So I won't tell you. So you set up, maybe you want to achieve 100 million, and all you are doing is you are fasting and praying, you are doing all kind of things, and you are looking and and you're like, I wish I had shown a picture of myself many years ago when I used to think that way, because actually I was there myself. I will pray when it's December 25, I'll start preparing for the new year. And so by the time it's January 1st, I'm writing New Year resolution. And so as I'm writing New Year resolution, I will spend January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd, fasting and praying, and I'll be praying about my goals. Guess what? After I've prayed about my goals, I don't come up with a plan of action. I don't come up with a process that I'm going to follow in order to achieve that goal. And so by December 25, when I'm beginning to prepare for another year, I look at my stats, I look at my data, and I like, so what happened? Is it that God did not answer my prayer? The thing is, God doesn't work that way. If you are going to achieve any result at all, the input is important, the outcome is important, the output is important, but what determines the output is the process. If you don't set up a process, you will never achieve the outcome. So no matter what you feel you are doing, the question I'm going to ask you again is, do you have a system in place? Of course. If you have a system in place, what is your process? Your process is most important. So at this point, let me take a couple of, let me check in the comments and look at some of the conversations that are going on here. So Joshua said, Hugh, Michael said the legislative process. I didn't get that about cancer. Government students will now feel relate now. That you're amazing. Oh, thank you very much. P32. That's item P3. That's very interesting. Mitch, Michael says, man, science and God agrees. God says this will happen to you, yet he wants you to actively participate in his plan to make that thing happen. Of course, that's very, very correct. He says, it made, oh, I think something, okay, good. One of me and Chris, Annie Vision, 100 million. Oh, so I am the 100 million gun. Take right now. Amazing, Oluwatobi. Thank you. Bella, I'm feeling you. Thank you. Okay, so in case you have questions, just write them down so that at the end, we will take all your questions all together, okay? So write down all your questions. We will take them at the end of this particular session. I'm also checking YouTube as well, checking YouTube to see all the comments in YouTube. Okay, Dele. Amazing. And for everyone joining me on YouTube, thank you for keeping up with me so far. So again, I'm going to reiterate this particular statement. Many times we admire the outcome someone has without knowing the input that went into it or the process that follows after the initial input. If you admire anybody, don't just admire them for and study the system that they have in place to make those results you're admiring. Get into a studying mode to find out how did they make it happen. So for example, if you see Chris sharing that a student in DABA made 350K this month, question is, yes, it may be through affiliate, but the affiliate is just an idea. Affiliate is the input. The process itself is what did that person do in order to get this 350K? Do you get it now? If Dayo is making 100 million naira per month, what process did he set in place in order to achieve that 100 million? So don't just admire people. Also, study their system. Okay? Study the process. Study the input they make. Study the process they make. Don't just admire the outcome. Now, moving forward again, I want you to understand here that the process phase typically takes the longest time. And the process is as important as the result. You would have heard it said many times that the means, something, there's a statement about the means and end. The end determines the means, right? That is, if this is the end determines the means. The end, which is the output, determines the means, which is the process. So if what you want to achieve is 100 million, can you sit down, break down the numbers? For example, let me show you my own breaking down of numbers here. So let's say I want to, okay, the end justify the means. That's the statement. Thank you very much, Olanrewaju, Precious, Anthony, Salauddin. Thank you for reminding me. The end justifies the means. The thing is, the end justifies the means. I think that statement is true, actually, because the end shows the product of the process. So the output shows the product of the process. I think I should even write that down. That's a very interesting output. Don't mind me, I use the left hand. Determines, oh, how did I say just now? Please, can someone remind me what I just said? I've forgotten. The output justifies, how did I say it? The process. I can't remember what I said again. But what I wanted to share with you is, if you say you want to make 100 million, for example, in breaking down so that you have a process in place, okay, it's not very clear. You may want to say, okay, 60K per month for 6 people, you will land at 2,160,000 if that is what you are going for. Okay. And if you say, okay, 150K one time for 15 people. That means by the time you do 150K in 15 times, you will achieve 2,250,000. Now you may be looking at that. Now, if you do 40K per month for 6 months, that is 1,680,000. And then 100K for 20 people, that's 2 million. Now, if you calculate all of that, that's already going to about 8 million, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's already going to about 10 million. Now, if that is what you're going to do and you repeat that same process, you will see that you will have the 100 million that you are going in for. Thank you for telling me the statement. The output, okay, now I want to write the statement down. The output justifies the process. Okay, good. The output shows the result of the process. Okay. Thank you very much. I've written it down. Sometimes things fly off in the heads of those of us that teach, and we wish we had captured them. So that's what just happened right there. So again, let me look into the comments right now. Let me see what others are saying. So it says the end justifies the means, the output shows the process. Daniel says, Onyechukudi says, if I get you right, first, know and understand my outcome, what I want to achieve. That's correct. Understand what I should put together to achieve that. That's correct. Then commit myself to the process that will help me refine my input to my expected outcome. That is very, very correct. So input, the process you need to do, and then of course, now one of the things you need to understand, which I'm also going to talk about, is that if you are exploring the God nature of your human being, the way my friend Victor Negro likes to say it, he says, if you are activating your God self, it means you want to go to the output first. So you want to see the end from the beginning, then you will now work backwards and create the process. And then you now know this is the input this is to get this outcome. I'm going to share that with you when we talk about Jesus Christ anyway. Someone else's process may not work for the next person. That's very correct, Precious. Thank you for that. So moving on, interestingly, the plan for Jesus is what I'm even talking about next. So if you check it, you find that God's plan for Jesus Christ did not just happen suddenly. God did not create Jesus Christ in a vacuum. Now, what was the outcome that God was looking for? What was the output? The idea as created in Genesis chapter 3 was God wanted to bring the idea of the seed to pass. Now, there are three elements in place here. There's first prophecy, and then the second process. I'm going to explain why this is important, because prophecy usually is the vision that you cast. Process is what you set up, and people is the community, the tribe, the people who will come together and make that outcome happen. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because some of us are business people. We need to understand that there's always a people, there's always a process, and there's always a prophecy. Prophecy, as I defined here, is a fraction of the future brought into the present so that people can prepare to get to that time. So in Genesis chapter 3, God said that he was going to send Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ was going to destroy the head of the serpent. If you think about it, the seed is a serpent. So the seed was going to destroy the serpent. How is it going to happen? In order for that to happen, God set up two things: process and people. So process, if you check, after God said that in Genesis 3, research shows that it took between 4,004 years to 3,000 years, that is, before that fulfillment could happen. So God was a long-time thinker. God was a long-term thinker. He didn't just prophesy it and expect it to happen instantly. Unlike many of us, we think, I want to make 100 million, I want to make 2 million, I want to make 10 million. And then the next thing we are expecting it should happen the next day. In fact, I remember in the preface of my book, The Government of Self, I talk about the breakthrough mentality that we have here in Nigeria. So we are busy going from one program to the other, looking for breakthrough. So we go from one program to the other, to the other, to the other. We explore in Daboski. We explore liquid metal. We explore all kind of things. If in Daboski finishes raining, another person will reign. There was a time it was tight. And all kind of breakthrough shortcuts that people look for. But people don't set up the process that will get them to where they are trying to get to. So you need to understand that if there's a prophecy, there is a process. I remember, is it First Timothy or Second Timothy that is often used to bamboozle us, that God has said it, so you should war, you should get into prayer, you should prophesy it so that it will come to pass. The truth is that prophecy is not what is currently happening. Prophecy is something that comes before there is an outcome. So prophecy precedes the process, prophecy precedes the people, prophecy precedes the result. But if you spend every single day, you are prophesying every single day, what's going to happen when the result does not show? Does that mean that God did not honor his own process? Does that mean God does not honor his own principle? No. It is because we are the ones. You know, the way I used to say it is this: a lot of us quote the Bible, but we don't live the essence of what we quote. So we quote a lot of things, but we don't know that what we are quoting is a process. For example, let me come back on the screen here. For example, a lot of times we read Joshua 1:8 that this book of the law should not depart out of your mouth, and you should meditate day in, day and night, and you will have good success. If you think through it, you'll find that what Joshua 1:8 simply establishes is input. This book of the Lord will not depart of your mouth. It needs to constantly go inside. Process, you will meditate day in, day and night, because as you meditate, and for your information, the meditation that was used then was, I don't want to say it was inserted, but the original word was you were going to go inside of yourself, and you will, while walking with the scriptures, you will go inside yourself, find quietness, find some elements of silence, and then you begin to imagine and begin to create pictures of that success that you are looking for. Now, what's the output? Good success. But a lot of times we quote it. We don't know what we are talking about. So we just quote, and we think that God did not honor his word. But the truth is, we quote it, we don't understand that it's a process. There's input, there's process, there's output. Do you understand now? So hopefully you understood that. Somebody said we will explore 5G. That 5G is Antichrist, or 5G is the end of the world. You know that is very, very funny. When you don't understand process, while there's the element of 5G, which is basically data mining, that is what 5G is basically for, there's nothing Antichrist about 5G. It's just like you are upgrading your system. You are upgrading, for example, I had to update Zoom some days ago. So if I didn't update Zoom, is it possible that I may be missing out? For example, there's free account of Zoom, isn't it? There's also paid account of Zoom. There is free YouTube. There's paid YouTube. If you need to use the paid YouTube, what did you do? You simply upgrade. That is exactly what's happening with 4G, 5G. You simply upgrade. So we think 4G, 5G is the work of the devil. But the thing is, 5G is not the work of the devil. It's self-explanatory self, if not taken out of context. Amazing, amazing. Let's not go there. Are you minding us? I was making reference to when you said Daboski. We are exploring in Daboski. So you find that a lot of times, God, in order to make things happen, he sets up a process, he sets up a prophecy of course, by speaking what is going to happen ahead of time, so that when it is time for it to happen, God just makes it happen. Of course, it doesn't make it happen. What a lot of us see as miracle, for example, a lot of us share testimonies of God has just given me a car. The question I used to ask people is, if you are living in a country where, in order for you to be a fully functional member of the society, you had to be driving, will you be thanking God for giving you a car, or you will know that you are actually doing what you are meant to be doing as a responsible citizen of a society? Will you be going to the altar in that country, in that system, and be giving thanks to God that, thank God today I just had car? So you see, prophecy is a fraction of time, but in order for the prophecy to come to pass, God had to put a process of time. Time was the process that God put in place. But then, in order for it to also come to us, God had to raise a people. God chose a tribe, a community to bring out his plan. Abraham, of course, the father of many nations, was the forerunner of that plan. Now, I'm going to also pause here and ask a very important question. If God was to bring about Jesus and he raised Adam, and through Adam, three religions have existed. Of course, there's Judaism, there's Christianity, and there's Islam. Question: why do all these three religions, why do they fight themselves when we have a common heritage? You see, that is because of the ignorance of, or the lack of learning system that is supposed to teach them that there's a common heritage. We are of all one blood and we are from one man. And God made it so anyway. Do you understand what's happening here? So you find that a lot of times there's a lot of fight between Christianity. In fact, Christians want to save Muslims. Christians want to save Jude. Is this when God said I was going to send his seed? Did Jesus himself become a Christian? And I know that's going to touch some people's head. I was on my channel yesterday when I was live. I was talking about religion, and I said that religion, in whatever form you have it, is a set of formed beliefs created by some people, and they expect you to accept it. And I remember in one of the slides, in that same slide I was using yesterday, of course, you can find that on my channel. If you go to my channel, you'll find that. I remember saying yesterday that God, that Matt does it, if you are not careful, a man will sell to you a God made in his own image, and he will be telling you that this is the God that he will serve. And he is basically selling to you a God made in his own image, because he has recreated that God and is now selling that God to you. And so you will not know that even though God has made man in his own image, men have begun to make God in their own image and in their own likeness. And so that is what they now sell back to you. And they may not even say the true God to you. Are you getting me? So this is getting interesting. That's right, but the process is what is conformed. Add up. As I'm typing this, my head is full. I understand that the process is intense brainstorming. That is right. In order to create process, you will have to do a lot of thinking. That is what Joshua 8 refers to as meditating, because you have to go inside and think. For example, I just outlined how somebody can make 2 million naira here, right? I said 60K for 6 months for 6 people only, we get you 2 million naira, 160,000 naira. The outcome is what? To get 2 million naira. The process is what? Set up something that will help you get 60K per month, only for 6 people. And you have to repeat that every single month for 6 months. You will land at 2 million naira. Question is this: if you want to be a millionaire and you follow that simple plan, will you be a millionaire in 6 months? If you commit yourself to that process, will you be a millionaire? Very simple. Yes. But the question is, will you think of creating such a plan? Most times, no. Do you wish you will have 2 million naira? Yes. Which is the input, which is the outcome. But is there a process? No. So do you get what I'm explaining now? So a lot of times, the process is what you need to work on. The process is what you need to work on. There is no system anywhere around the world that exists without a process. I've explained to you using several examples, isn't it? I'm also going to share with you how to set up a process. Maybe, should I share it? Should I not share it? This guy says, God, sir, where are you from? Don't mind me. Thank you very much for all those compliments. Now, let me share with you 3 organizations that followed this same plan that God set up. And in my study of systems, I study organizations In fact, in studying organizations, sometimes I will write down the name of organizations in my note and say, I'm going to go check out this organization. And so when I study such organizations, I don't just read the about page. It's easy to read about page. I go look for every book that's been written about that organization, or every book where they mention the organization. I'll look for every article. I'll read all kind of things. I'll watch videos. All I'm looking for is, yes, we are enjoying their content, but the content is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the system that powers what they are doing. If you can understand the system that powers any organization, any success, any goal, any outcome, you will always reproduce it. So let me share with you 3 organizations that I found very interesting. Andrew Emmanuel, thank you very much for joining me. Daily Adeleke, the end shows the process of the output. Thank you very much for leaving that. So if you look at, first is the Rockefeller Foundation. Now, a lot of times, of course, many of us may have heard of Rockefeller Foundation. If you have not heard of Rockefeller Foundation, you probably are hearing it from me today. Now, Rockefeller Foundation was founded in 1913 by John D. Rockefeller Sr., who was 74 years old, and Jr., who was 39 years old. They were monopolist oil magnates. That is, the system in which they were operating then was simply business. They were basically business people. So in all those 7 mountains, what they were functioning within was the business system. They were not politicians, they were not anything. And the main reason why they set up Rockefeller Foundation was John D. Rockefeller had become so rich, of course, because of monopoly, that his friend and lawyer had to tell him that if you die, you are 74 years old right now, if you die, your children will become intoxicated with power and they will probably fight themselves over your wealth, and that will destroy your legacy. So the lawyer now advised him that set up a permanent corporate philanthropy for the good of mankind. Now, today, 2020, remember that was 1913. For your information, that was before Nigeria even got its name. Nigeria got its name in 1914, Abi. So that means he founded that organization 1 year before Nigeria got its name. The influence of that organization controls literally every facet of the American society. UN, that is United Nations, was created as an organization. World Health Organization, which is controlling the conversation around coronavirus today, is modeled exactly after Rockefeller Foundation. That is, they want to have their web spread across every influence, every facet of humankind. In order for them to do that, they created subsystems. So some of the systems created by WHO are things like CDC, things like and I'm trying to remember what they call it, but they created several subsystems. But if you look at it, this organization, Rockefeller Foundation, is simply a system that was set up. Now, internationally, the foundation has footing everywhere. In fact, Rockefeller Foundation is in Nigeria, in case you don't know. Now, what I've mentioned is that this organization is in charge of world's history. Now, when Noah's Ark was found, the nails of Jesus' hand, the tomb of Jesus, when all of these things were found, Rockefeller Foundation collected all of those archaeological evidence and they archived them in their museum. So if you check online today, you'll find that they will say that this thing was found, but right now it is in Rockefeller Foundation Museum. This thing was found, it belongs into a museum. The museum, check who's controlling the museum, Rockefeller Foundation. Now, what did they do? They started from oil, they went into philanthropy. Philanthropy, of course, we could say that could be economy or so, or that could be maybe family or humankind or so. But they quickly spiral from there into every other system of human society, so that they influence government through some of their subsystems. They influence media. Of course, Rockefeller Foundation has some shares in some of the big medias around the world. In fact, if you Google their name, you'll see that This is something that's common knowledge everywhere. Second organization that I want you to also consider is Bilderberg Group. I'm also going to show you some organizations here in Nigeria too, so that you don't think all I'm talking about is outside Nigeria. Now, Bilderberg Group was founded in 1954 it was founded in the Netherlands, so it was not even a US. Now, members are called from different countries. They dictate and discuss agendas for the entire world. So in 1954, 4 years before Nigeria gained independence, some people came together and said that there's world war, or world war just ended. Let us come together and avoid the next world war so that world war will not happen again. That was the goal of Bilderberg Group. And so, in order for us to ensure that world war does not happen again, let us have members in different countries, powerful people, so that even when there is going to be war, we will have prior knowledge in order to control that narrative and control what is going to happen so that this world war does not completely take place. Interestingly, Bilderberg Group started from a hotel, and the group original agenda was to prevent another world war. Of course, it has now become more than preventing world war. Today, their goal is more of United Nations. What United Nations does as an organization, Bilderberg Group does as a group of 130 people who come together every year. 130 people. In fact, members come from different parts of the world except Russia. And somebody asked me when I initially wrote this post that why Russia? I later found that the main reason why Russia was excluded is because Russia is one of the few countries in the world that have that belong to multiple continents. That is, you can't categorize Russia as Europe. You can't categorize Russia as Asia. So there are some countries called Eurasia countries. So Russia is one of them. Now, according to their website, they rotate members yearly. This year, they have not publicized their members yet because, of course, the members only come on invitation. So it's not like they put out, it's not like a public flyer for people to come and join. They are the ones who simply reach out to the people that they want to be in that group and invite them in. Are you getting what's going on here right now? So some people are determining and shaping the conversation that's happening globally. And you may be thinking that, we are going to take the world. Like I saw a pastor yesterday on Facebook. He was praying that any agenda, he was talking about Bill Gates, and he said that Bill Gates was on TV talking about vaccines and this. And so they started praying that for your information, the church is in Abuja. So I want you to know clearly where the church is. The church is in Abuja, but they have branches all across the middle belt geopolitical zone of Nigeria up to north. I think they have just one church branch in some of the southwest here. So they were praying that any agenda for Antichrist, that something they just found a way to write the prayer point and connected it to Bill Gates and coronavirus and Antichrist. And I was like, I don't want to say, are you fucking kidding me? But I just said it. And I was like, are you kidding me? These people need to simply understand that this entire conversation around coronavirus is created, orchestrated, designed, and perpetuated by a group of people. And you simply need to go find out what else does the group know? What else are they doing? What systems are they running? Simple. You may not even need to pray all this pray that people used to pray. But again, last year, 2019, the members of Bilderberg Group are people like Eric Schmidt of Google, the CEO of Google, which is Alphabet Inc. Peter Thiel, the author of the book. In fact, Chris may even know the book. The book is called The Power of One or 0 to 1. I think 0 to 1, that's the title of the book. The guy is the CEO of Thiel Capital. The current CEO of Microsoft is a member. The current CEO of World Economic Forum is a member. The current CEO of World Wildlife Federation is also a member. Now, the current chair is Henry de la Croix de Castries. That is the current chairman of that group. Now, I want you to pay attention to this part here. This guy, Henry de la Croix, is the former chairman and CEO of AXA. AXA is the owner of AXA Mansard that you have in Nigeria today. So you see, the system created somewhere even has influence here in Nigeria. If you have ever seen Axam Answered, that is the guy that is the CEO of the company, is the current chairman of Bilderberg Group as at right now, as I'm speaking to you right now. Now, he is also the that is this Henry guy is also the non-executive member and of board of directors of HSBC of Nestle. Nestle produces Milo, isn't it? So if you see that they have created systems to take over the world, to claim territories, but you are there praying, 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 praying. It comes down to systems. It comes down to systems. It comes down to systems. So again, let me look at the comments. Let me look at the comment. So I'm looking for comment. Somebody says, please share. Chris, should I share? Let me unmute Chris. Chris, should I share?
When you were talking, I was shouting and shouting and shouting. Yeah, but thank God you had to mute me, because maybe my shout would have scattered the whole conversation. I was all screaming with this. It's mind blowing. This is the point, and this is the part I was coming to, concerning the church, concerning our organizations, concerning, in short, it is this mentality that is helping me to found Blue Valley. There's a new company. It's not even I don't call it just a company. It's a socio-economic movement in Africa I'm founding, called Blue Valley. And our goal is that we want to be investors in all the about 8, 9, 10 different sectors. Our goal for the next 12 months is to raise $1 million. And our goal is that nobody is bringing any cash out until after 5 years. Meaning, every money invested, you're not thinking of getting any returns until after 5 years. It's a crazy kind. And one of the countries I have discovered that I had to emulate. I had to emulate and see what they are doing in Saudi Arabia. And people like Saudi Arabia, I said, see, let me tell you something. These people, just the way you're talking about the Muslim, the Christian, I said, these people are the one even thinking the way God builds system. Unlike us that are firebrand prayer warriors. Hey, don't mistake me, guys. I'm not saying you shouldn't pray. I'm not against that. Prayer
That's
is
right.
fine.
I'm not saying you
Prayer
should
is
not pray.
good.
That's
Okay.
right.
But I tell you that if you compare what the Saudis are doing, Dayo, if I share that document with you, you run crazy. It's this thing you're showing now. If we want to keep opening different systems upon systems, when I saw that Saudi Arabia and I said this is what we're building at Blue Valley, I shared it in December 2019 in Dubai. And I talked about the same thing about the 4 Asian dragons that we're talking. I talked about 4 Asian dragons in Dubai. I'm sure if I'm teaching things like this, somebody will come and say, the book of Revelation is what you're doing, and it's Antichrist. And and you see, and you see, Dayo, anytime a pastor or a preacher wants to start explaining end time technology and brings out revelation, I just close that TV or that YouTube channel or that conversation. You know why? Because it's actually not making sense. It's actually not making sense. Okay, so for me, this entire system, this entire thing starts with sit down, like what I'm doing in Blue Valley. I'm now gathering Blue Valley people and now people that have nothing. They're not, it's not even a must, they are students of DABA. Most of them are my business partners. And they've been waiting for me to share vision that will carry everybody along. We cannot continue buy and sell the same way it has been buy and sell. We
Sure.
cannot continue business. And so one of the things I make, one of the resolutions I make for 2019 and 2020 is to get to a phase in business. It sounds so easy and simple, but to get to a phase where I do not need to be attending to my phone for money to enter my company. A lot of people have not even crossed that process. And that's what I keep telling some of my students. If you can get to that phase where things can be going on in your company and you don't need to reply a customer to close a sale or for money to come in, then you are on the verge or you've started building something called the system. And I don't want to stop there. If you notice, I came to you early, some months back, and I said, see, I have Chris Annie, I have Blue Valley, I have DABA, I have Digital Abundance. How do I go about this whole process? And that one assignment you gave me, I know we've not had our meetings since then. That one assignment you gave me with that conversation brought about some clarity, explaining what exactly is this one going to do? What exactly is this one going to do? What exactly is this one going to do? Okay, so it's the same thing. Just like my article today on Onitsha main market and Dubai. Boy, oh boy, you've just written something about 2040. If we say today we want to have we don't even need a 10-year plan for Onitsha main market. With the resource we have on ground, we can convert Onitsha main market in 5 years. I mean, by 2025, when the economic powers come together and sit down today, we will demolish everything we have in the Onitsha main market and rebuild it in 24 months. And it will compete with what is happening in Dubai. I don't want us to copy Dubai. I don't want us to copy China. I don't want us to copy Saudi Arabia. I want us to build our own model in Onitsha. And we'll put it in Ochanja markets so that the guy in China will be able to travel from Hong Kong and come to Onitsha main market and buy an item. See, if you give me a choice now, where do you want to travel to, Onitsha or Dubai? Do you know who choose Dubai? Because there's something attracting me there. But you will not choose Onitsha. I will not choose Onitsha. Why? There's no more core attraction point in this whole thing. So as individuals, as business people, we should be sitting down to have conversations on game plan. The same way I can sit down and say, what is this thing that we need to do? Where is this place we are going to with these dream partners I have? What is in 3 years? This is what I want. In 5 years. And I've said the same thing. Just what you've written now, I put it on for Blue Valley. By 2025, we are following a new African order. And this is the criteria. I've developed the pitch deck. My game plan now is simple. I'm going to call on a video meeting that will have different people who have this like mindset. Meaning, if you're here and you can't drop 100,000 that you don't need now, and it is money that in the next 5 years you reap, you are part of this game plan. But if you are those that if you drop 100,000 today, tomorrow you're already in Chris Ani's inbox saying, my money don't go, my money don't go. No, don't come, don't worry, go and do something with it. Maybe go and buy a course on DABA, make money on affiliate marketing or WhatsApp. Good, I support you. But you see this one is a long-term plan because Dayo, by the time we wake up tomorrow, we are 40 years old. By the time we wake up in next 5 years, you are 40.
Yes, sir.
By the time you wake up next 10 years, you are 40. Before you wake up, you're 50. The question is, what is the legacy blueprint that has been done? When I saw what that document is when I saw that document by Saudi Arabia, that I did not get myself. I sat to some of my team and I said, this is what we are doing. Why? So that my children will wake up and in the next period, they will be able to look at the system we have built. Look at the likes of, see, do you know there is a system that by the time you finish building it, in your old age, you'll be living so healthy. Because there's a sense of fulfillment, building system. The sense of fulfillment that comes with it that says, this thing I've done. And you see people try. That's why you can see the king of Dubai so happy the way he's happy. What's there? There's a sense of fulfillment that we sat down one day.
That's right.
And said we are the men that will build Dubai. If you're a student of DABA or you're listening to this channel by Dayo Samuel's channel, or you're watching this video randomly on YouTube, maybe not the day we're recording it, because see, I did this video for one reason. I'm a system thinker. I did this video for one reason. When I saw what Dayo was teaching, I said, this is not what I can teach. but I want Dayo to teach it. And when we record these things on YouTube, we are not just thinking of us today. I'm not thinking of the 70 people who watched it on live. I'm also thinking of the 1,000 people that will watch it after we drop the record on YouTube. I'm looking at the 100,000 people that will watch it even next year, next 2 years, next 3 years on YouTube. Even if we are not talking the same thing again, they can carry that same ideology and build. This is what should make us now. This is how we should be thinking. If system thinking was in place, the likes of P Square will put their differences aside. We can be quarreling, but we still own the P Square empire. Let us be quarreling. After all, slap me. Yes, I slap you. Yes, but I still have my 20% in P Square empire. We are still going with the same plan of building our fashion brand. These guys would have been the biggest brand in music in Africa. I don't mean John Jazzy and Co. I mean, P Square had Africa in their hands at the time. They had Africa in their hands at the time. If we are thinking system and we say, guy, I'm not going to live with you for the same house. Let's separate our mansion. I agree. But we have one vision in plan. The vision is that this empire will outlast us, that even if we cease to exist today, that empire will continue. Because the Okoyes will continue to reap from it. The guy in Onitsha, the Anambra cousin of mine, will be reaping from it. Even when I am no longer alive, these guys will be reaping from these things. Okay, so this is the mentality we should start thinking. And when we think systems like this, we now start building businesses beyond our stomach, beyond our pockets, and start seeing the need for legacy. And see, let me tell you something. If we don't build this system, especially as church people, for instance, we will miss something. You see, let me tell you one, I am so ashamed that it is one man we dedicated several days to be preaching about, Bill Gates. Bill Gates has suffered. At the time, I said, are you sure I will not start supporting Bill Gates again? Because at the time, I was confused. I'm like, what is all this? One man. So how is Bill Gates so powerful? I don't mean money. Is Jeff not having the same money? Who is talking about Jeff Bezos? Nobody's talking about Jeff Bezos. We only know Jeff Bezos as well. What is that thing Bill Gates is driving that is making you complain? He has built a system called the Gates Foundation. He has brought in billionaires to fund that foundation. He has dropped in an ideology. 1,001 churches fighting Bill Gates. 1,001 churches don't have a single document for a global plan. That should keep us thinking. I mean, I'm going to mention names. There are different churches we have in Africa today that are powerhouse. That if the GO decides to do a press conference, NTA will carry it live. Eastern Bloc, what is Eastern Bloc is chicken. CNN may even be angry and carry it live. I mean, now on your own, imagine 5 of the top GOs in Nigeria decide to sit down in a conference and say, we are releasing 100 billion for research into medical things. Dear Nigerian government, we don't want anybody's vaccination. Okay? We're not saying it's antichrist, but we are funding it. All our herbal doctors going to produce this thing in the next 1 year. Let me tell you something. People will start to pay attention beyond the attention they are giving now. People will start to pay attention beyond the attention they are giving now. And Dayo, there's something we are forgetting in the church. We don't go back to read history. The Charles Darwin, the Michael Faraday, these big scientists were all rooted in the church. They were planted in the church. They were funded out of the church.
Even Rockefeller that I just talked about.
Had their root in the church.
The guy was a Baptist.
And they brought out this ideology in the church. But how come our own generation now focuses the conversation only on speaking tongues, win the souls? And who tells you is everybody that will speak in tongues and go out there with their Bible to win souls? Soul winning is good, but are we in that area of influential dominion that we can say, oh, before the government makes a decision, they are consulting us? Before these things are done, they are consulting us. Dominion is influence. Bill Gates has no position. Oh boy, Jesus, this thing is getting me worried. He has no position. As it stands, he's only the CEO or president of Gates Foundation. Do you know what he has built over time? That's why if you're here, when I say write a book, you don't write, you don't know what you're missing. Go and read the writings of Bill Gates in 1996, 97. He was forecasting things ahead of time. Let me tell you, some of the things he forecasted were mistakes and they did not work, and some things worked. Now, the ones that worked are the ones the world is now saying, it's like this man, they planned this thing together. It's because people share their ideology. That's the reason why I'm putting out saying, Dayo, I don't want this conversation to be me talking about it. I want Dayo Samuel to come on board and let him say it. So that by the time 5 years now, you'll say, oh, Dayo is the Antichrist. He was saying this and this. He was pushing this ideology. That's the way we should be thinking. That's why from today, don't just do things on your own. You want to start your own, you bring in people, share the ideology, move as a system. The people preaching lesbianism and gay, your prayer cannot pull them down. It is your system that will pull them down. The system that shuts them up is not the prayer of Trump. It is the system that brought in Donald Trump. That's why Donald Trump does not support the lesbians, the LGBT people. Why? Because he is under a system that does not believe in them. Even if Donald Trump is carrying all the women in the world, it's not even anybody's business again. Why? Donald Trump is under a system that believes in the Bible. Donald Trump, system is powerful. Now, Samuel, system is so powerful that even if you don't believe in God, if a Christian, because that Christians, those evangelical put you in power, you start reading the Bible by force.
Of course.
Last 2 weeks, Donald Trump was in the Bible, reading the Bible to the whole American nation in a press conference. He was reading Zechariah to the world. Why? Because there are people behind his ascension. So if a system is the one producing you, you are not powerful on your own. You are powerful as the system. So that when you say A is now white, because of the system that's produced you, A becomes white. But if you want to now run on your own, like we are doing with our respective churches, today this one is saying this, tomorrow this one is saying this, and the world system, the Rockefeller, the Bolivian group, they are now on their own saying this alone. Boy, do you know it is those systems that control CNN? It is those systems that control Fox. It is those CNN that control what is written on YouTube. We have over 1 billion Christians. There is our own YouTube that should not be censored. And it is not a one-day thinking, it is a systematic thinking that should have a 30-year plan. A plan that if I, Christianity, exist the world today, that plan should carry on. That's why till today, the preachings of Apostle Paul is still what we read, even when Paul is not alive. That should tell us something. The system that will dominate. I think one of these days, we're going to now have a conversation on how to go about this system. And one of the tools for implementing this system is that this system must have strong media influence. That's why if you're not on YouTube today, you're doing yourself. If you're not writing on Substack, you're doing yourself. If you don't have the blog, you're doing yourself. I'm building an app for myself. If you don't have
something that happened one day.
I'm listening.
Somebody got to, I think it was at Social Media Week. I was speaking at Social Media Week on a panel and they introduced me. And the moment they introduced me, I didn't even know. And I've noticed this happen severally. I didn't know. Somebody just went on Google, typed Dayo Samuel, and immediately requested to join my group. Immediately checked my course, check this, check that, check. By the time he was asking question based on what he saw online, not what we're discussing on stage. So when he asked, I said, "Did you see so, 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 so?" He said, "Yes." Oh, I see. There was one day in one church, because if you are building system, documentation is a powerful part of it, because you have to
Yes.
document the process so that someone else can do it even when you are not there. So
Very
you
true.
saw me bring out a note just now. The
Yes.
reason why I was saying it on, I was telling somebody some days ago, I think I was speaking with a mastermind member of my group. I was telling him that the main reason why I write things down is not because I'm going to publish everything that I know.
Mm.
Thousands of the things that I know today, I will not publish them. For example, I mentioned the government of self earlier on. The reason why
Mm.
I've not published government of self yet is because some of this conversation is inside the book. And I know that Nigeria may not be ready for that kind of conversation.
Mm.
So, and when we release book, it's not only because we want to be impactful. Sometimes we want to also make money. I said, let me hold on to my book. Let me release smaller levels of insight first. I'll release higher levels later. So I get you. I get you very, very well. Documentation is very key. Documentation
Very.
is very, very key.
Check the
So,
document I sent.
should I continue round up? Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can use extra
Okay, great.
15 minutes before round up.
Okay, great. So let me now. I know a lot of you may be asking right now that, okay, this conversation is deep and all that, but the truth is, just as Chris said, you need to start thinking of when you exit this life. I told my wife okay, we're having a conversation about my birthday. My birthday is next month. So she said, so you will soon be so number of years. I said, in my own mind, I'm already at 5-6 years ahead of that particular age that I'm supposed to be next June. So I said, and my goal is that by the time I'm at that age, this is what will be seen or said of me. So I'm already thinking of that time. I'm also already thinking of by the time I'm 74, for example, the things I will be leaving behind. I'm going to share a simple framework that you can actually use for that with you as we go on. So let me show you some of the things that you may not even know about the organization that I mentioned to you some minutes ago. So I know some of us see this. Now, this is Bilderberg Group. This is the kind of conversation they had in 2018. This is the kind of conversation they had in 2019. So in 2018, they were talking about the future of work, artificial intelligence, US world leadership, quantum computing, the post-truth world. In 2019, they're talking about a stable strategic order. What's next for Europe? Climate change and sustainability, Brexit, the ethics of artificial intelligence. Remember that 2018, they talked about artificial. So if you look at, people are coming together, and that is how systems are built. You need the working together of a lot of people. Now, looking at trilateral commission, this one was started by, now you remember that when 1913, Rockefeller was founded by John D. Rockefeller. The junior was 39 at that time. By the time it was 1973, he was 58. So he founded a different Rockefeller, same family, founded Trilateral Commission, and this one runs everywhere around the world today. Now, I want you to pay attention to the members here. Michael Bloomberg. Who is Michael Bloomberg? He is a richer than Donald Trump as at this point. In fact, he was I think about 7 or 8% higher in ranking for US president than Donald Trump. As at February, March this year, when he pulled out of presidential candidate, he was already beating Donald Trump hands down. How? Because he had a system backing him. And you heard them, Chris, talk about it earlier on. In fact, part of the members of the group include Eric Smith, again, the CEO of Alphabet Inc., which is Google. It includes, if you know Boeing International, the people who produce aircraft. That is the owner of the company that produces aircraft. The president of that company belongs to this to this group. So you find that a lot of times you may not be understanding what is going on, but people are working together to push things, which is why I'm a I collaborate with people a lot, but my fingers have been burned over the years, and so I've reduced how much I do collaboration lately. Why? Because I don't. Something wanted to come out of my mouth, but I don't want to say it. Now look at UAC Nigeria. This is UAC Nigeria here. In 1879, the company started as Royal Niger Company. Then in 1919, Unilever acquired them. But by the time you see everything that you are seeing around you today, for example, here are the products of Unilever, this UAC company. They are the ones producing Gala. They are the ones producing a particular table water. They are the owners of Mr. Big. They are the owners of MDS Logistics. They bought over Cap PLC, which produces paint, Deluxe paints, Plux paints. They bought. You can see how they built a system just from a company, just from UAC. They started the company long before Nigeria even gained independence. So the essence of a system is so that it can outlive the person who started it. For example, David Rockefeller, who started this John D. Rockefeller, is dead. In fact, this David Rockefeller is currently dead. He died in 2017. That's how many years ago? Just 3 years ago. But before he died, can you see the organization that he left behind? Trilateral Commission. It still continues to run today. Another example is Dangote Group. Of course, a lot of you already know Dangote, right? Dangote is also a system that is running. So you may see Dangote as the richest man in Nigeria, the reason, or the richest man in Africa. The reason why he's the richest man is because he has a working system behind him. So again, I'm going to ask the question I asked earlier on, but this time around, I'm going to flip it. Rather than talking about 10 years, I want you to write down how old you are right now. Whether you're using a note or you are using a device. In fact, if you are bold enough to write it in the comment section, I want you to write down how old you are right now, and I want you to project 40 years time from now. How old will you be? And then I want you to, that's question one is, how old are you right now? Question two is, how old will you be in 40 years time? Question three is, by that 40 years, what will be the output? What will be the outcome that you will be excited about? That is, if we were going to have this conversation in 40 years time, 40 years time from now will be 20 need to have happened in your life in order for you to know that you are not just attending this conversation, you are not just attending this session for just attending sake. I want you to answer that question. 40 years from now, by 2040, what will need to have happened in order for you to know that this session is really, really useful to you? So I'm seeing that shout is in. My birthday is June 18th. So let me tell you now, in case you want to, in case you want to give me gifts. Stephanie, you might need to send the message to everybody. So Sarah, thank you. Michael, thank you. Stephanie, thank you. So let me check YouTube to see the answers of other people as well. So how old are you right now? How old will you be by 2040? By the time we are in 2040? And what will you look back to say, thank God that 2020 I began working on something, that this is the system that I've built, and so this is the result I am seeing. I want you to look back. I want you to go into the future right now so that it doesn't appear like we are just talking and there is no plan in place. Now, also, I'm going to share with you how to come up with a plan that may look interesting as well. Now, you remember earlier on I talked about these 7 systems that control the world. I talked about the arts and entertainment system. I talked about business system. I talked about education. I talked about family, government, media, and religion. What I want you to look at is, which of these systems will you be playing in? Will you be a key player in by 2040? For me, because of my transcendental nature, I will play in multiple systems. So, for example, I'll be playing in religion, not like I want to become a pastor anyway, but because I've begun to make public the spirituality part of content that God has given to me. For example, some of the things I shared here today, it's not like I learned them anywhere anyway. I just, through study, through thinking, processing things, I began to develop some of these things. And interestingly, some days ago, I think it started like last year when I did a video on my YouTube channel about how to build business systems. And some people downloaded the video and used it to teach classes. And I was like, really? The thing that I sat down and developed on my own. So some of these things came via observation, came via studies. But I'll play in religion, I'll play in media, I'll also play in government because I'm not going to leave Nigeria to bad system. I'm also going to be playing in family. I'm also going to be playing in education. I'm going to be playing in business. Art and entertainment is the only place where I know I may not be playing. Now you remember so that you will not be thinking, what's this guy? Are you jack of all trade, master of none? Well, the truth is, jack of all trade, master of none is not a bad statement. The original meaning simply shows somebody who has who is multi-potential like myself. The original statement, in fact, so that I'll say exactly what the original statement said. So I want you to answer all these questions. So it's not like I'm pausing here so that you can. So the original statement of Jack of all trades says that Jack, where is it now? Okay. The full statement says a Jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better of one. So you see, social conditioning, we only take the first part, we delete the remaining part. So the full statement is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Question: Dangote, as I showed you in the screen just now, is Dangote a master of one or a master of all? You find that Dangote is the master of all. He has his leg in almost all the systems. So again, I like what I'm seeing here. Business, family, education. I never agree with the stigma behind gender portfolio. Don't mind them, Jare. Religion, family, education, arts and entertainment, multifaceted. I hate government. It's okay to hate government. What you need to hate is politics, not government. You will always need government because even running a business, there will be government. There's government in business. For example, Chris being a CEO of DABA, that is a government. But unless you begin to look at it as a government and set up arms of government, you won't. For example, this is systems, isn't it? In order to set up arms of government, you need to set up the technician, you need to set up the entrepreneur, you need to set up the technical, the manager. So you need to, just like there are three arms of democratic government anyway. System is how Otedola has entered a bigger part of power. Very true. So he started from trade, which is business, and then over time influenced a lot. So what's his name? Chukwudi, for 40 years from now, I would have been able to build a sustainable system that will institute men and businesses for South Africa. I have one focus, and that is Africa. I have one belief, and that's everybody's an institution. Conversations to represent is that men, kings, business, and government can identify with. Amazing. So thank you very much for sharing that. Let me move forward from here. So you need to identify where you need to play in so that you can begin to position yourself for the next 40 years. Because the truth is, 40 years time from now, the result of this conversation we're having today is going to show up. Question is, what process will you also set up in order to deliver that future that you are seeing? That future that you are seeing in 40 years time from now. You need to set up a process. So let's say you want to build a system for your personal life. Of course, this is self-leadership, isn't it? Now, here is the system that I have developed in order to help people develop a system for their personal life. So what you want to do is you want to look at this in the space for name. You want to write down your name, not your name, rather, sorry. You want to write down the name of your grandparents. So here you want to write down the name of your grandparents. So you want to write grandparents from dad and mom, and the name of your dad and mom. So you want to write dad, mom. So grandparents from maternal side, grandparents from maternal side. You want to write down all of that. Don't mind my writing. Let me connect my tablets in case I need to write. Let me connect my tablet here so that I can write more clearly. Okay. So I've connected my tablet here. So you want to write down, what did my grandfather leave behind? What did my grandmother leave behind? If your dad is dead, what did your dad leave behind? If your dad is still alive, ask, what is he leaving behind? If your mom is dead, ask, what did my mom leave behind? If your mom is not dead, ask, what is my mom leaving behind? You want to write that down, because being aware of the legacy and the heritage that they left behind will also help you to channel your own life, so that perhaps you can choose to end up like them, choose not to end up like them. So the next week, that's the question you want to answer there. And then in this section here, you want to write your name. So your name here may be Dayo to leave behind, and then you want to start listing this. And then you want to ask yourself, which of these am I doing right now? Which of these things, if you are doing A, mark it. If you are not doing it, mark this. Do you get that? So you want to ask yourself, which of these am I doing right now? The awareness of this alone, I've seen it transform people's lives. By the way, I developed this as what will help people to take charge of their future, so that they don't leave their future to chance or leave it to just prophecy and prayer. Now, prayer is important, just as Chris mentioned. It's very important, but you also need some other things. So please write that down. Do that right now. Or maybe you should take a screenshot so that you can do it afterwards. Let me move forward. If you are building a system, if you are building a business system, I need to help you understand here that every startup is a system. For example, if you build your system well as a startup, funding is going to be a possibility of a functional startup system. If you don't build your business very well, you can't request funding. In fact, if you want somebody to fund your vision, you first of all need to have a system in place. Even if the system has not started working, you need to have the idea of that system. Again, every business, every startup is a system. Every app or platform is also a system. So you need to look at, for example, DABA, for example, Audacity to Lead, for example, Blue Valley. They are all systems existing on their own. But the interesting thing is, you will always see that systems will work together to achieve the same result. So, for example, I am running two organizations, two companies. One is Audacity to Lead, which is a design, strategy, and media company. The second one is Dayo Samuel Research Multiversity, which is basically a research and training institute. The two of them are doing different things, but they are basically our systems that I'm setting up, systems that we run on their own, systems that we continue to leave behind, that I'm going to leave behind. This is one statement that I found in the Bible. It says, put your outdoor work in order and get your future ready. After your business very well, you will have sufficient resources to begin to build your house. Now, there are 9 different elements in this. Now, every business as a system comes with 3 things. One is an attraction system, second is a conversion system, and third is a delivery system. Attraction is how you bring people in. So let me draw here. So you want to bring people in, and then here you want to convert them, and then here you want to deliver what you promised them. So for example, you want to attract them to come in. So if you don't set up attraction system, you will have no audience. You will have no audience. You have nobody that you will be selling to. If you don't have conversion, you have no sales in business. If you don't have a conversion process, you have no sales. If you don't have a delivery system, you have no result, because people will begin to refund. People will begin to complain that, don't mind them, they are just making us in that place. But if you want to create a business system, it comes down to these three things: attraction, how you are going to bring in people; conversion, how you are going to convert them; and delivery, how you are going to ensure they get results. And then, fourth thing is building the national system. For those of you who want to play in the political or the government space or in the economy, you need to know that you need to also build a national system. I'm not going to share that with you here. So again, finally, not again, welcome to the real you. Welcome to the real you. Now, takeaways from this session is this: systemizing starts with knowing the essentials. You need to know the essentials in order to systemize. Secondly, to build enduring systems, you need to think long term. So you can't be thinking of just 10 years. You can't be thinking of just 5 years. You can't be thinking of 1 year. For example, maybe you invest today and then you are expecting the result quickly tomorrow. Just like Chris said the other time. You invest and then you are coming to his inbox and say that, what's happening with my money? What's happening? I remember back when I was a student, I invested in Fidelity Bank shares. And since then, I've not collected any single dividend till today. Not because I don't want to collect, but because I understand the power of compounding interest. How compounding interest plays a long term. And so I left my shares with Fidelity, even though at one point it was way less than the money I used to buy it when I was buying it as a student then. Now, in building systems, you need multiple parts working together. And if I'm talking about these multiple parts, you need to know where you belong and you need to play it well. And of course, if you talk about building systems, multiple parts working together, you need to understand that you need to collaborate with people. If you remember, when God wanted to bring the plan of Jesus, he had prophecy, he had process, and he had people, right? You need people if you are going to ensure that your system delivers the result. Now, when you want to change your results, work on the systems, not the symptoms. And I need to repeat that. When you want to change the outcomes of your life, the results you are currently having in your life, work on your system, not on the symptoms. So, for example, how do you wake up in the morning? What do you do in the morning? Do you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you are scrolling through social media, looking at, and that's a system that you are running. You may not just be aware. Your habits, your addictions, the things that catch your fancy, all of these are systems that are powering your life. But you may not be aware of them anyway. And so they continue to run. Remember I mentioned earlier on that systems run independent of whether you are aware or you are not aware. Systems continue to run. For example, this is Zoom. We are streaming to YouTube. A lot of persons are joining in. The system is working. How is it working? Because there's some system somewhere, there's a server somewhere, maybe in the US, maybe in Russia, maybe in Canada, depending on where in fact, you can actually find that out if you check the meeting. There's a way to find that out. There's a way to find out where your server is in Zoom. I can't remember that right now. You need to work on the system, not the symptoms. Lastly, framework comes before work. Framework comes before work. You need to develop a framework first before you can do the work. In Nigeria here, they will tell somebody that they want to clear or they want to build a house, and the first thing they will start doing is they will be clearing the ground. They will be clearing the ground, and the way they will be clearing the ground is to go and hire somebody who will use cutlass to cut it. That is work coming before framework. But if you develop a framework before work, it means that before you even touch the land, you first of all develop a blueprint of the building you want to erect, so that you know the number of area you need to actually cut, the number of space you will need. Maybe you need a plot, maybe you need an acre of 6 plots. That will be dependent on the framework that you develop. So always take this to mind. Framework comes before work. Jesus said, and I repeat, if you want to erect a building, will you not first of all sit down to count the cost, so that you will not be ashamed that what you started, you could not complete it? Why? because that person got into work before developing a framework. Now, I know that I've rained a lot of things on you tonight, and I know that with my conversation with Chris, this is a lot. This is what Oliver Wendell Holmes says: a mind that is stretched to a new idea never returns to its original dimension. You have been exposed to these things today. If you go back and do the same way you've been doing, then that is what is called self-sabotage. You are the one that is now the village people doing yourself. If you go back and continue with the exact way you have always been doing things, you are now the problem of yourself. How can you begin to set up systems, set up processes in place so that your life can go in the direction of what you want to see in 40 years' time? This is the conversation I'm going to leave you with here today. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. I mentioned server earlier on, right? So let me click on this. It says that my data is encrypted in the Zoom Global Network via a data center in Europe, and it built in bracket France. So you can see. So again, thank you very much, everyone. It's been an interesting conversation. At this point, I want to take questions. And I know that I've stretched your mind tonight. That's the conversation I like to have. Not the conversation of just let us, of course, we need to make money. Of course, if you want to take over systems, you will need money. So right now, make as much money as you can, but make the money with the mind that you know that you want to take over systems. And when you say take over system, it is not the kind of takeover that you declare, this is my year of takeover. I am going to take over this year. My friend, don't deceive yourself. You can't take over by declaring it. You take over by setting up a process. Let me give you a key example. 30 or so years ago, I think 20-something years ago, when a stupid guy who looked stupid to everybody started setting up systems in order to be the most important voice in the Christian community in Nigeria, people thought it was crazy. People thought it was mad. In fact, he did it so much that he said that he was not going to appear anyway. In order for him to look the path, he had to jerry call his hair. He had to always dress a particular way. He had to always ensure that his church looked a particular kind. For the first time in Nigeria's history, one person was on the billboard, US billboard for gospel music, and the person came out from the system that guy, 30-something or 20-something years ago, the system that the guy set up. Many people in Nigeria today cannot do that. You know why? Because even the church you attend, like I said some days yesterday in my stream, even your pastor has a problem. Even your doctor has a health problem. But they won't come to you to solve it. So back to my conversation. 20-something years ago, 30-something years ago, the guy began to set up systems. The system produced one Nigerian who led the entire US billboard for 8 straight weeks. 40 years from today, who are you going to be producing? Now, the interesting thing is, you don't have to be the forefront of your system. You can have somebody. You remember I mentioned it? Entrepreneur, who is the key person of influence, and there is the technician, which is the field worker, and there is the manager, who is the person who is the diplomat who manages the entire process, right? Now, you may not necessarily be the front person. You may not be the person that everybody needs to see. You can be a guy that sits at the background like Bola Tinubu, controlling the entire nation called Nigeria. And he's just sitting down somewhere in Nigeria, somewhere in Lagos State, and he's just sitting down. Everything that is happening, it dictates. In fact, for your information, you only vote for the option he presents to us as a country. If he doesn't present any option, we may not even know who to vote for. I hope you are understanding what I'm explaining here. You need to start thinking in terms of systems. If you want to take over government, then you need to start finding a way to position yourself so that 40 years from now, you are controlling that system. And I hope that this conversation has been beneficial to you today. If this conversation has been beneficial to you, please let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat box. Ask your questions. Somebody is saying that what is the link to my podcast? Chris, I've unmuted you, so you are welcome back. Your YouTube link or podcast. My podcast can be found at anchor.fm/I am Dayo Samuel. Let me see if I can post it to everyone instead.
I want to
Okay,
advise,
great.
based on what Daya has just said. One of the guys watching this channel or watching this conversation or this night class is his name is Ajulu, and I just discovered recently he is now the chief operating officer. Is Ajulu here? He's now the chief operating officer for a company called Habit Network. That's a big, big system. And Ajulu is one guy who has positioned himself as a writer, as a thought leader, as a designer. And of course, Ajulu has his own platform called Day One. He has his own particular systems he runs. But Habit Network is pioneered by a guy called Bitcoin Chief. And Bitcoin Chief,
Oh, now I know that name. The name is now familiar now with Bitcoin Chief.
Ajulu is now the COO. And that's a powerful system. Ajulu is not the
Sure.
CEO of the network, but I can tell you, so there was a day Bitcoin Chief had to publicly declare something and say, man, thank you, Ajulu, for helping me in this area. It goes back to what Daya was saying. You may not even be the face of the system, but you're part of it. And that's why from today, I want to teach you guys something. It may be a stretch of what we taught on Monday. Start belonging to communities now. Start. Dayo, from what you showed us, I discovered that some CEOs belong to more than one group.
Sure.
Some companies belong to more than one group.
That's right.
The Rockefeller, the Burger Group, the this and that group. And there are some of you
You
who are in that.
find Google, what's his name? Eric Smith belong to two of those groups, actually.
Okay. And I must tell you, now imagine Habit Network becomes a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, let me say something. Let me say something. Not like I'm saying this is going to happen, but even if Ajulu retires from Habit Network, he could still use the name and say former COO Habit Network. And he can use it to
That's
land a
right.
pitch for his company. That's the what this woman, Sherry Sanderberg, is using, has used. And that's because she was former Google, former Yahoo or something. And that's how and now Facebook is our longest staying company. And I don't even see her leaving Facebook. Facebook is not like family to her. I think it's Facebook she will die because it's already, she's controlling a lot of things there. Okay. Where am I going to? Start belonging to communities on your own. Okay, even if you have, don't be the person trying to be the face. Once you see that you cannot even lead the group, allow the person who has been called to lead and stay in the system and be part of it to build. Start belonging to communities now. It could be DABA as a community. It could be company or working as a community. Because we're now going the era where it has to be community centric, not just you running as even my brand, Chris Annie, I call it a movement because there are people working with me. There are people I share my ideologies with, even the one that want to steal it and the one that want to go and copy it, and the ones that want to hijack it, whatever, I still share my ideology. But of course, I have my own protection that makes me, and from there, I have people working with me. Look at the likes of Ilo. Ilo, the guy who is one of my designers after Damola, and he's one of the guys who designs our birthday post on DABA and all that. And he's one who even started create our Instagram. Today I don't even have access to my Instagram, to DABA's Instagram channel because I've created in such a way that I've never for one day posted something on DABA Instagram. Since the day our Instagram channel started, I have not on my own said I'm posting. If you see anything on DABA Instagram, there's no connection between Chris Annie and DABA Instagram channel. I only share the idea and they see what we're building. And from the ideology of what we're building, we now have a process. In short, if Elo stops posting tomorrow on DABA, you want anybody that comes and becomes our Instagram manager, we have a dedicated system that shows you this is what we do. So on Monday, you know what to post. On Tuesday, you know what to post. On Wednesday, you know what to post. And you know the color. By the time you even look at our coloring on Instagram, you will know that we don't accept any kind of design that does not follow this way. In short, Damola was commending Elo for the design he did 2 days ago. And I was like, who did this? So people were thinking it's Damola. People see my design now and say, Damola. But no, because Damola brings a template. And I look at them, I said, this is all we want. So everybody follows that pattern. So you don't even know who to choose. I say, who is the designer? So people come to me and like, who did design for you? Damola. It may not be Damola for everything. It's the same way because when Jesus was with his disciples, at the time they came and said, how are we going to recognize that he's the one? Because they were almost like dressing the same. So start thinking of community, start thinking of partnership, start thinking of collaboration, think of documentation, and be part of systems.
That's right.
Let me tell you, ideologies are powerful. Ideologies are powerful. Dayo, thank you for this session.
Thank you very much. I think there are questions that I should take. Precious says, what if you create a system and it brings a result but below what you expect? Does that mean you're wrong? You need to check your process. That is the answer to that. You simply need to check your process. And the thing is, your process will be refined over time. So let me use the example that Chris used just now. It was Damola that was designing for them. In fact, I knew when Damola joined them. By the way, to let you know my multi-potential light in nature, I actually studied design in school. I went to university to study graphic design. So I'm a designer. Perhaps that contributes to why my video is looking very fine. So when Damola has created the templates, perhaps before Chris could be satisfied with the design that Damola created, there had to be a lot of back and forth. But by the time they got it, of course, by the time they got it, that was when they can now replicate it. That's when someone else can now take over and begin to create almost the same result as that person. So if you're not getting a result that is below what you expect, check the process and keep refining it. You will get there. That just speak like a prophet just now. In fact, I want you to shout amen. You will get there. I'm someone of multi-potentials, but most times I feel overwhelmed and find it difficult to concentrate on a particular area. This makes me not to produce optimally. What should I do? The simple answer is pick one area to focus on part-time. I am multi-potentialite too. The current expression of my work covers training, therapy, and coaching. That's the current expression of my work. While I can do plenty other things, I'm limiting myself to just those 3 things so that I don't get to spread myself too thin and experience overwhelm. So I understand what you're saying. Pick one thing to focus on part-time. It could be like, you would say, for example, there was a time of my life that I was teaching people blogging. There was a time of my life that I was teaching people podcasting. In fact, if you go on Google right now and type podcast in Nigeria or podcasting in Nigeria or Nigeria podcaster, all those words, you'll find that is going to point back to me. You know why? Apart from being a digital marketer as well, because I studied digital marketing. And where did I study digital marketing? I studied digital marketing with Digital Marketer Lab. That's Ryan Days. So you see that I have all this plenty multi-potential. But what I have learned to do is to bring them together to work towards a goal. So there was a time I was focused on podcasting. There was a time when I got tired of podcasting. I simply pivoted into the next phase. We are human beings. We will always evolve. Evolution is something that God knew that we were going to be. And there are people who are just straight-jacketed. There are people like that. But there are also people who are multi-potential, like yourself, Okonkwo or Stanley, Okoronkwo rather. What you need to do is focus on something per time. So let me explain it the way I did then, so that it's very applicable to you. What you need to do is you need to have a front, and then you need to have a back end. So this front end, this is what people will know you for this time. You will still be doing the remaining things. For example, today I still did a design because we had recently stopped all of our 6 interns in our company simply because they've not been as productive as we wanted. And of course, coronavirus gave us the perfect opportunity to let them go. Now we are hiring new people. But before they come in and start working, we still have projects. I'm the person handling some of those projects. That is for graphic design. So I had to do the design for a client today and submit. Now, if tomorrow we hire a person, of course, I don't promote myself as a graphic designer, do I? No, because that's a back end. So it's a back end offering. It's part of what we do at Audacity. Do you get it now? So you need to have a front end and you need to have a back end. For example, I said it at the beginning of this conversation that systems is one of those things that I don't talk about because I know if I talk about it, some people will see me as this guy does not believe in God. This guy does not believe in salvation. This guy does not believe in this. But the truth is, that this guy doesn't, thank you, Jared, that this guy does not believe in miracles. But the truth is, you make miracles work. In fact, the Bible says that in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, from 7 downwards, it said that to some people there's the gift of the working of miracle, which means that there's a gift of the process of creating miracles. So some of us, we create miracles by working a process, not like we expect miracle to happen by breakthrough. So you get now. So you need to have a front end and you need to have a back end. So the front end could be what you put out there in order to get people in. Then you offer them all these other back end talents that you have. So people come into Audacity to lead. They want to help. They want us to help them improve their business processes, improve their business systems, or maybe they even want us to design websites. The design part of me comes in. I guide the person who works on the website. I go, okay, this color needs to be like this logo needs to be like this one needs to be like this. Do you understand now? But that is not what we are promoting. So that's what you need to do. The other person says that, and please, in case I cannot take all of your questions, please understand it with me. Brendan says my chlorophyll is well loaded from this solar energy. I have to build my branches. OnePlus, Oppo, Vivo, Realme, Ego. These are smartphone brands that belong to BBK Electronics. Let me shock you. Yes, BBK, Samsung Electronics is the parent company to Anan International, which is also a parent company to Aman, Cardon, Becker, JBL, Bang & Olufsen, Crown, DBX. I like this particular conversation. AKG, AMX, Lexicon, Infinity, Mark Levinson, Revel, Arkham, Stoddard, Soundcraft, BSS Audio. Wow. Thank you for teaching me that. I never knew that Samsung is the owner of all those companies. But I knew that Techno, for example, from reading a particular book, I knew that Techno and Infinix came from a company owned by a Nigerian. The owner of Slot was the person that first of all went to China or so to go work with other people to create Technophone. And so when they saw that Technophone was successful, they went back and created Infinix. So the two phones are coming from the same source, but they don't put Slot Nigeria on it. Do you understand this? Systems. Please, I want to build a system and a brand that in 5 years' time, in 2 industries in Africa, will be the only person they must connect with. That is not going to work. Why? If you are going to build a system, you need multiple parts working together, multiple people working together. So if you want to be the only person they must connect with, I think that's a part that may not let it to work, because you will feel entitled to the entire system, and so the system will be dependent on you. And here's what maybe in a different conversation, I will teach you some of the principles that back systems. For example, system is not emotional. Systems don't depend on one person to get the result. If a system depends on just one person to get the result, if that person is not available, the system cannot run. So if you want to be the only person that they must connect with, forget it, it might not work. So you need to, first of all, expand your thinking. And here's what I want you to understand. when you bring in a lot of people to work with you on a system, it is not like you are, it's not like you are giving everything away. If you people have a memorandum of understanding that guides your policy, that guides your decisions, that guides your choices, guides the things that you do, you'll find that it's going to be a lot easier to get into multiple systems or create multiple systems, and all of them will be thriving. So I need you to understand that what keeps the process alive, what keeps the process alive. I'm not sure what keeps the process alive. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure I understand that question. No, Anan International is the parent company to that list. Samsung is now the parent company to Anan International. Thank you, Mr. Dayo and Chris, your Austin Mastermind class. Yes, thank you very much. You said this is very raw. Please, I want to build a system. I've answered your question. Techno Infinix Intel owned by Transition Holdings. That's right. Transition Holding, ITEL. I will shock you to know that Amazon won't come into Africa as Amazon. They already have their children playing in the market. That's right. This Mars Shinkin, this feature is decentralized. Thanks. Amazing, amazing. I like the fact that you already know all these things. So you see that the truth is wisdom, truth, systems rule the entire human experience. You simply need to know the parts you need to play and hook yourself in. Hook yourself in. So again, I'm going to look into YouTube right now to see if there are questions that I need to take as well. If there are questions that I need to take. So the camera needs to come back to my face. In case you want to, you can check Amazon for my book, Limitless Courage and Confidence. So I have a book, this book right here, Limitless Courage and Confidence. That's the book that I released. That should be 2000 and... Okay, I think that should be last year or 2018. I can't remember again. And I'm working on a new book anyway. Some of the books I'm going to be releasing, some of them are going to be focused on systems, because over time that I've studied all these things, I've taken in a lot of things. And so, in the absence of no other question, I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Chris. Even though I can't see you again, thank you very much for having me on this session. I believe that this has been really, really interesting and exciting for you. For those of you that have been watching live on YouTube, thank you as well. Thank you for joining me. For participants in this session, I'm Bimbola Oshodi, Aduabayo Miajulu. Oh, this is Ajulu. Akinla, Igwe, Erban, Aruloyo, Gozi, Chika, Digital J, Dono E, Ibe, Ifi, Kelvin, Ilo, Bakare, Musa, Precious, Stanley, Salaudin, Wisdom, Cyril, Treasure, Delia, Deleke, Grace. All of you, thank you very, very much for this conversation. At this point, I'm going to pause here and let Chris take over.
Right. I don't think there's any other thing we want to say again. And thank you all for the session. Remember to go on Twitter, talk about this event, talk about what you learned today, and follow Dayo on Facebook, follow him on Twitter, follow him on Instagram, follow him on YouTube. Okay, Dayo, thank you very, very much. It's been an awesome night.
See the way I'm doing like this for you. I'm burying my head. I just said that in Yoruba. I'm burying my head for you.
Thank you very much. And it's been an awesome time. Thank you guys all for participating. It's actually exciting that at a time like this, we are now going to be having classes that last for 2 hours, giving people deep time teachings and conversations like this. God bless you all. I hope that I'll be able to get a replay on cloud. Since it's on cloud, I'll be able to get a replay and send it to our list by the weekend. Thank you once again. Please remember to get Dayo's book and connect with Dayo. If you need all those consultations and all that, I can always read Dayo Samuel's contact via my WhatsApp. But Dayo, you can actually call your number so others can see you. They can
all my handle everywhere. My most active handles are YouTube and Instagram. I use Facebook a lot, but not as much as before. Everywhere it is I am Dayo Samuel. So if you type Instagram /I am Dayo Samuel, YouTube /I am Dayo Samuel, Facebook /I am Dayo Samuel. On Facebook, I may not be able to accept friend requests because I have over 2,000 friend requests that I've not even accepted. So it may get buried. So it's best. Instagram is best. So everywhere I am Dayo Samuel. Even Steemit that we joined those days. It is I am Dayo Samuel. So I am Dayo Samuel is where you can find me. Even on Twitter as well is I am Dayo Samuel. But my most active is YouTube and Instagram. Thank you very, very much for you to have stayed this long. I would say bosa for you. Bosa to everybody.
All right,
Have an
guys.
amazing time ending this stream one.
Yeah.